Listen to The Front on your smart speaker every morning. To hear the latest episode, just say, play the news from The Australian.
From The Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Claire Harvey. It's Tuesday, September 3. Brittany Higgins barrister has accused Senator Linda Reynolds of siding with an accused rapist and harassing a young woman who had just tried to make Parliament a safer place to work. That's in closing addresses in a defamation trial between Reynolds and her former staff member. Reynolds accuses Higgins and her husband David Shiraz of deliberately setting out to destroy her reputation. There's a feud between the Albanese government and the Reserve Bank. First, Treasurer Jim Chalmers said interest rates were smashing the economy, and now Minister Matt Thistlethwaite has warned the bank not to go too far. But the government says they're not trying to pressure the RBA. All the details are live now at theaustralian.com.au. Concert pianists are supposed to bring the drama, and boy did Jason Gillam deliver for the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, which is facing legal threats from all directions over its handling of Gillam's decision to make a pro-Palestine statement on stage. In today's story, why the orchestra's boss says she's been hung out to dry. On a dark Sunday winter night in Melbourne, in an intimate auditorium, a modest crowd, just over 150 people, are listening to a piano performance. The artist is Jason Gillam, a concert pianist in his late 30s, who rose from obscurity in country Queensland to be celebrated around the world, particularly for his renditions of Beethoven. And then Gillam stands and introduces a piece that wasn't on the advertised program, a work called Witness. Gillam tells the audience it's in honour of Palestinian journalists killed in Gaza.
What Jason Gillam did was he spoke to the piece. The piece was a late inclusion in the performance, and he spoke to it by saying more than 100 journalists had been killed in Gaza. He claimed that some had been targeted assassinations by the Israelis, which of course would be a war crime. And so he spoke to that, and then he played the piece. And the issue here was that obviously around Australia, people have very different opinions on Israel, Hamas, the conflict in Gaza. And so for him to say that on the concert stage offended some people in the audience who thought they just came along for a concert and didn't want to be fed someone's opinion on the Gaza conflict. And that's where the controversy started.
And wow, has it been a controversy? This simple moment before a microscopic audience by comparison to the international concert halls where the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra often performs has left the orchestra's reputation broken. They tried to fix it one way, then fix it another way, and nothing has worked. And now everyone's lawyered up and nobody's giving an inch.
The MSO is the oldest orchestra in Australia, Claire, and it really is a big part of the cultural fabric of Melbourne. It's very famous. It tours the world, enormously high quality. It really is one of Melbourne's most loved institutions, frankly. And to see it now embroiled in such a very vicious controversy is quite extraordinary.
And the thing is, as other arts companies have found themselves dragged by the ankles into the dark waters of drama since Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7, the MSO had really thought about how it could stay out of it.
Well, the MSO saw those complaints, and what happened, to go back a bit, in December last year, the MSO had quite a few series of meetings saying what's going to be the orchestra's position on the conflict in Gaza. The orchestra actually in the past has supported some political issues. It supported the yes vote for the Voice referendum. It supported gay marriage during that controversy. So the orchestra sometimes does take positions. This time, the orchestra decided, the management of the MSO decided we're not going to take a position on Gaza. We have Jewish employees, we have Muslim employees. It's too divisive. We'll just be neutral. And they sent that statement out to the subscribers. They also told the musicians' representatives about it. So they did have a clear position of neutrality.
The MSO had watched as a similar drama engulfed the Sydney Theatre Company earlier this year, when actors decided to make personal statements by wearing keffiyehs, the traditional scarf of Palestine, on stage. That sparked complaints from some members of the audience, including members and allies of the Jewish community and those who just didn't like the stage being used for a political statement. The MSO was also worried about the reaction of audiences and benefactors, including some Jewish donors, and alarmed that Gillam was due to play again just 4 days later.
And they decided the best thing, the safest path, was to actually send a letter of apology to the people in the audience, saying they're sorry that these political views were aired and that the pianist would not be appearing in the concert on Thursday.
How did Jason Gillam react? Well, you can probably guess.
Jason Gillam was very upset by that. He thought it was unfair. He thought it was a denial of his rights of artistic expression. He was backed by the pro-Palestinian community, by activists who really sent a lot of fairly savage messages to the MSO, critical of the organisation, and the union that represents the musicians, the Media and Entertainment and Arts Alliance, also put out a statement saying that it was very disappointed in the behaviour of the MSO. So the MSO suddenly found itself, Claire, in the crosshairs, I guess, of the pro-Palestinian movement.
So that was management's call. But the next day, the board members who claim they hadn't been consulted called in crisis managers.
Well, the external consultants actually advised for the MSO to do a backflip. They were concerned that to not do that would leave the next MSO concert, and perhaps even future ones, at the mercy of pro-Palestinian activists. And I guess they had visions of audience members walking through protests to get to the concert. But of course, a backflip would also engulf the organisation in more controversy and annoy the Jewish community, amongst others. And so what actually happened was the next day, the board, they tried to get the pianist to perform on the Thursday. He said no. And then they cancelled the concert entirely for security reasons, but also, most importantly, put out a statement saying that his cancellation was done in error. And so there you go. After just a few days, the MSO had annoyed everyone on every side. And it also had a spectacular rift between the management team. The management team is 7 strong, Claire, and it was a unanimous decision to agree to cancel the pianist. The board, which is 11 members, came back and totally overruled that decision. So what an extraordinary rift in the middle of the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, did you think this was the end? Not by a long shot. We'll be back after this break with the woman who lost her job in the midst of all this drama. The best coverage of the arts, from reviews to profiles and the juiciest news, is always at theaustralian.com.au. Join our subscribers to make sure you've got all sides of the story. We'll be back after this break.
The MSO is a great orchestra. It's a large organization with about 500 people.
This is Sophie Galais. She was the managing director of the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra.
They're entitled to their opinion, and actually artists are usually very sensitive and have strong opinion. But because of that, we have decided that we would discuss when we would air opinions, and would try to provide for our audience a safe haven, a platform where one can hear beautiful music, where one can be at peace and enjoy a wonderful evening.
Sophie Galais had led the response to the Jason Gillam situation, but in August, the board told her she was sacked.
It was reported that she'd resigned. She hadn't resigned. She said she was terminated, and now she's exploring her legal options, Claire.
I believe it's been unfair. I love my job. I've lost it, and my reputation is in tatters. And now I will have, I believe, quite a difficult time finding work in the world of music, a world I love.
Sophie Gillespie says she's also been the target of abuse online by people taking Jason Gillam's side.
I was violently criticized for being a woman, for having short hair, about my accent, and terrible words were used against me. I feel like completely gutted.
So in fact, we've got a strange situation now where the MSO has toughened its rhetoric against Jason Gillam to the point where it looks very much like the original position that Sophie Gillespie, the sacked managing director, took on the first day. So it's a mess that will require further unravelling, I think, Claire.
Ever since Hamas fighters attacked Israeli civilians on October 7 and Israel's military began pounding Gaza shortly after, Cam and our reporters at The Australian have been covering the fallout around the world. So, what does this moment tell us?
The tentacles of this conflict over in the Middle East are gone into almost every aspect of Australian society. Should performers get on stage and speak their political views to patrons who are coming to watch a performance which has nothing to do with politics? That's really the nub of the debate. And the fact that we see so much passion on both sides here, I think just reflects the fact that this is such a potent and divisive issue across Australian society.
Cameron Stewart is The Australian's chief international correspondent. Thanks for joining us on The Front. We'll be back right here tomorrow.